Hi, you're listening. Oh, I'm Rob, and today I am talking about um, the Auditor General's report, which happened in uh, December of 2024, so very recently. And I have a news article that I'll look at from the NOAA, and then I'll look at some of the reports. There's a lot to go through, and I don't know if I'll be able to go through all of it. And I am doing better from my surgery that I had recently. Um, so I'll start uh, looking at the article first. It's in the NOAA. It's called Rushed Zoning Orders, Ontario Place, Skyrocketing Cost, and a Coyote Hunting Contest, Auditor General's Environmental Notes. This is a yearly report from the Auditor General and the Environmental Commissioner. Ontario's Environmental Commissioner is now part of the Auditor General, as I've mentioned in previous episodes of Environmental Soup in previous years. This is by Emma McIntosh, December 3rd. And what I've highlighted is the Greenbelt scandal in 2023. This is a quote from the article. Premier Doug Ford's Progressive Conservatives came under fire, fueled by a scathing Auditor General's report for giving preferential treatment to developers and following processes that were biased and lacked transparency. In 2024, quote, similar problems in different places, the report found, like the government's use of a controversial development power called ministerial zoning orders, which in a few cases involved intervention from top political staff, similar to work allegedly done by ex-staffer Ryan Amato on the Greenbelt file. And when I read in the report, I saw that there was meetings with people that were not registered lobbyists, and changes were made last minute without proper consultation, without engagement with municipal staff or conservation authorities, indigenous nations, etc. So there is one case study from Kevin Monaghan, and in the Williams Treaty, and I am broadcasting from Williams Treaty territory. Well, I'm recording this in Catawaqui, which is in Kingston, but broadcasting in the Williams Treaty territory, North Yeah, the duties of the Auditor General include looking at the Environmental Bill of Rights, and then there's a heading, over a 4-year period, Progressive Conservatives' prolific use of controversial zoning powers plagued with problems. Quote, they used zoning orders 114 times between 2019 and 2023, compared to about 1 per year by the previous Liberal government. Former Deputy Chief of Staff to ex-Housing Minister Steve Koch directed bureaucrats to prioritize full housing zoning order requests after being directly lobbied about them. Those requests to finalize zoning order had come from the Premier and Koch, who resigned last year amid the Greenbelt scandal. And I should say that the Greenbelt scandal is still ongoing. There was a OCMP investigation. Chief of Staff personally edited the zoning order, directed staff to remove protections for natural features on land, and passed the developer's exact wording for the order along to bureaucrats. The staffer wasn't named. The ministry didn't check whether the orders were necessary or justified, didn't consider whether projects could be hooked up to services like electricity and water, and they didn't try to identify environmental risks or harm to farmland, and didn't consistently consult First Nations. So that's a huge issue that this article is talking about. Not identifying environmental risks endangers people, especially if there's an increased risk of flooding. And the natural environment is important to protect because of the intrinsic value of the natural environment itself. And if we don't protect it, we lose all the a lot of the environmental services that the natural spaces provide, including climate change adaptation, flood reduction. We increase the risk of pollution, soil erosion, heat island effect, etc. Let's see, what else did I highlight? Oh, and then there's Ontario Place. I know a lot of people want to hear about Ontario Place. Ontario Place, the government removed the environmental impact assessment. The requirement to go under an environmental review, even though those species are at risk. They accepted bids that didn't meet its criteria, and they had contact with the bidders had contact with the government, even though they were not supposed to. There's the Environmental Bill of Rights section. I talk about the Environmental Bill of Rights. I don't know if I will be able to talk about that section in depth today. I'm not able to sit for long periods of time, so I might stick to like half an hour. And then I hope to cover like many of these individually as well. The government exempted itself from the Bill of Rights from this article, and it passed two bills, including walking back a set of controversial land use plans without consulting the public for full 30 days. And they didn't take public feedback into account or didn't show that they did. 1 in 5 lacked proper context. And then the article says that they breached timelines laid out in the Environmental Bill of Rights. And then those mention about coyote hunting. The Ministry of Natural Resources found that a contest wasn't likely to harm the environment and decided not to investigate. But the minister asked staff to delay notifying the person who requested the investigation until 10 months after the deadline set out in the Environmental Bill of Rights, so nearly a year after. So that ends the article. So I will look at the next section, which I'll just pull it up. It's going to be about minister zoning orders. Minister zoning orders. Oh, I don't see it pop up on my. Oh, those are delayed input on my computer. That's all. Oh, and feel free to, if you're watching this on a Sunday, feel free to chat in the comments. So there was, I should say that there was, let's see, how many, the different reports. I'll focus on the ones related to the environment. Climate change, adaptation. Oh, these will follow up. Minister zoning orders, Ontario Land Tribunal, Ontario Place Redevelopment, operation of the Environmental Bill of Rights. Those are all ones that I identified relating to the environment that might be of interest. And then what I found interesting is the follow-up reports from 2022, which include climate change adaptation, reducing urban flood risk, conserving the Niagara escarpment, and I think there was another one. Let's see. Management of hazards and emergencies in the environment, management of invasive species. So those, and then those other ones that don't relate to the environment as directly. But I will make a separate video about at least some of them. And I'll probably have to do another live to talk about all the reports. Oh, where was I? Oh, okay. Performance. Yeah, so I'll go back to the Minister Zoning Orders report. This is 120 pages. So the report by the Auditor General concluded that the ministry does not consistently provide the minister with timely and complete information related to the projects proposed for an MZO, and they found that on average it took the ministry 14 weeks to assess an MZO request. Timelines are important in environmental decision making or any decision making. And then another conclusion was, quote, most information packages prepared for the minister's office do not contain the kind of detailed risk information normally factored into municipal zoning decisions. This includes key information about infrastructural capacity and servicing, natural hazards, and the environment, and financial burdens to regions, municipalities, and taxpayers. And some projects on sites rezoned with an MZO will not have access to servicing, for example, water and wastewater for use, and sometimes decades. This is a problem because it limits the what do you call it? It limits development in urban boundaries and slows down how much can be developed and increases cost for future developments because of urban sprawl. And this means that likely brownfield developments won't be developed as quickly. One item, no assessments were made about whether MZOs were even needed or justified. So that's problematic, in my opinion, because MZOs override municipal planning decisions, and they allow for the destruction of wetlands. They override provincial policy statements, and destroying wetlands is problematic for a number of reasons. One of the big ones is flooding and endangered species, all put at greater risk. The municipal requests to assess and or mitigate risk associated with an MZO requests such as environmental degradation were often not included in the information provided to the minister's office. This is information that's important to be included, but it was not. There's no time frames for replying to proponents of MZOs, and they can remain unanswered for years. This is problematic because environmental decisions or community groups, organizations would be stuck in limbo, not knowing whether or not a project is approved or not, and it takes time, energy to organize a resistance to some of the proposals that will degrade the environment and without knowing whether or not an MZO is going to be approved or not, environmental groups and municipalities themselves are stuck in not knowing. And not knowing is time consuming and expensive. Some of the um, um, requests were assessed with tight deadlines, and there was no rationale for MZO requests that were prioritized. This is concerning to me because um, those inconsistencies and not knowing why something is prioritized uh, or not prioritized is questionable in terms of like ethics and yeah. Let's see. Okay, so the ministry never sought input from local and regional municipalities on potential impact that projects relating to MZO requests might have on other planned development in the affected communities. There might have been environmentally friendly development or more friendly um, alternatives um, that could have been approved, but now that an MZO was approved, I'm just making that example up. Potential. The ministry did not consistently identify or mitigate environmental risks and agricultural impacts. They didn't identify natural hazards like flooding, huge, or environmental risks such as loss or degradation of natural features associated with rezoning. The ministry engaged with experts. It did not act on their recommendations. Um, so that's problematic. The experts, uh, like we should be acting on the advice of uh, ex- expertise. I know that ministers or politicians, and politicians don't always know um, what the experts know. They're not necessarily trained in environmental science, is what I'm making a point about. And understanding land use is important. Uh, they didn't assess agricultural impacts, so food. Um, in 48% of 25 MZOs, municipal zoning orders they sampled, there's no evidence that the minister engaged any affected indigenous communities prior to the MZO being made. And then they said that it was not meaningful and was delayed or did not meet the province's duty to consult with the Aboriginal or treaty rights that apply to land rezoned using MZOs. And some said that they could have supported the development. And it's problematic if the government skips engagement for a number of reasons. But one is like opposition to projects does slow down projects or creates um, um, conflict, uh, additional conflict, where there might not have been conflict if there was proper engagement. And this is a violation of the Canadian Constitution, Section 45. There is a duty to consult Indigenous people. Let's see where I am. I'm at, on my recording, it's 25 minutes. So I won't be able to cover the other ones. Might skip some. I'll come back to like each one, go a little bit further in depth. Let's see. I want to talk about the operation of the Bill of Rights. That is where I look at consultation on bills, on some of the bills that are proposed, policies, and that impact the environment. So there's another report at 76 pages. And it says that ministries do not always meet their environmental Bill of Rights obligations, and several that went against the purposes, and then some did not go through proper consultation for the full 30 days. Let's see where ministries could not always show that they considered the public's feedback when making decisions. The Ministry of Mining could not show that they had meet their EBO duty to consider comments they received on certain environmentally significant proposals. And then there's a point that the Ministry of Finance is not prescribed under the Environmental Bill of Rights. The ministry used regulatory notice to promote government plans and actions rather than strictly inform the public. The next time I have, I'll make a live video, I'll look at some of the notices that are posted and see if there's been any changes. I should say that this report was based on things that happened in April. So up to April, I think. Right? The report was in December, but there was like time. So the ministries use self-congratulatory and promotional wording in their proposal notices, trying to persuade rather than strictly inform. I have noticed that in some of the proposals, and I'll point that out next time I look at the environmental registry notices. And then they gave an example: a dozen proposal notices posted over the last 2 years on a variety of matters were not primarily related to housing development, such as the proposals by the Natural Resources Ministry to change Ontario Wetland Evaluation System and the Conservation Authorities Act all used the same wording to promote the government's housing goals. So that's one example. Some notices left out important information to fully inform. Let's see. And then this one is concerning the Environment Ministry's Statement of Environmental Values does not reflect the Ministry's current name, mandate, or government priorities. I'll have to pull it up the next time I make a video. But this was last updated in 2008, and it does not reflect the Ministry's current name, mandate, or government priorities. So I'm reaching the end of the time that I have available for recording on my through my on my radio program, Environmental Soup, which is a half hour, and I believe that the season ends either this week or next week. I will be back in the in January. In the meantime, I will make videos on YouTube, looking over the Auditor General's reports. I'll spend more time, and hopefully I'm able to sit for longer periods of time. And yeah, thank you for listening, and I wish you success on your exams. And I will end the stream.